one of the craftiest ways that your mind hypnotizes you and pulls you into that anxious or stressed or negative dream state is to use thoughts in a way which feel very close and triggers a physical response from you. So if you notice that if you were to picture something that might be worrying you right now, don't choose anything too hard, by the way, but if you think about something that's worrying you, and you're a visual person, the image can sit really close in your field of vision. We often think our thoughts are right inside our head, but yet they're kind of projections which are in front of us, to the side of us, above us, below us, behind us. And without realizing it, we can be at the mercy of where these thoughts appear. For example, if they appear very close, that can mean that they're very important, but they can be overwhelming. It's like being sat right at the front in an IMAX cinema. And if a thought appears above you, then it can feel like it's overwhelming, pressing down upon you. Sometimes the things that we find quite highly pressurizing may have elevated. But do remember, we're all different. So the way that we process these visual thoughts, which trigger a physical response, is going to be unique to each of us. But there tends to be a pattern which kind of runs through most people if they're visual. If you're not visual, then this isn't really going to be for you. And you may have your own way of worrying. And why I wanted to talk about this was for you to get a sense of, where are my thoughts? How are they appearing to me? For example, when I was working with some students, when they were talking about procrastination, it was interesting that the thoughts were not very close at all. In fact, when they tried to think about whatever their assignment was, whatever it is that they had to focus on, it seemed quite far away. Yet, so far into the future, it is almost out of sight, out of mind. And just by beginning to bring it a bit closer, not too close so that it's overwhelming, but almost to a point where it becomes slightly urgent, beginning to focus on any blocks they have that would keep this image there. We don't want anything sending it back off into the future too far away. And also working on increasing the value of getting to this project, no longer procrastinating. And it worked a treat for a lot of clients. Fascinating, isn't it? Because once you become aware of how something is appearing to you, you can begin to change its order. I remember doing this with chocolate bars. I was quite a large fella, and I remember running down the seafront, feeling very heavy, very sweaty, very unhealthy. And I was just tired of eating cheap chocolate. And I remember the image almost like floating in front of my face, teasing me, making me want it. And I shoved away consciously this image of this cheap chocolate bar far off into the distance, far away from me over to the left. And I did that a few times. What I didn't expect was when I went to go and get some cheap chocolate out of pure habit, I bit into the chocolate bar and it tasted funny. I mean, hang on, why is it tasting funny? Also, really grossly, I could feel what felt like a film of fat on the roof of my mouth. I've never noticed this before, almost like it was kebab fat. So gross. And I just couldn't eat this chocolate anymore. It is also too sweet. I don't know how my brain had done it, but it had changed my experience of eating cheap chocolate. I remember a client coming to me with the same thing about cheesecake. We did the process. Later on, she came back and she said, I can't believe this. I've been to a number of places and the cheesecake now tastes metallic. Her brain had done something with this just by changing the location. And we did some devaluing work on it, but I wasn't expecting that, and nor was she. Another client asked me to do this with Sauvignon Blanc. We did. It was just an experiment. And they came back and they said that they've had a few glasses and it all tastes like wet dog hair. Now, we didn't do anything about dog hair. We didn't mention anything about changing the taste. We just changed the location. So these locations, by the way, I mean, I flicked mine off far into the distance on the left. I'm right-handed. And it seems for me that if I place something on the left, it changes in value to me. So if I think about one of my favorite foods, a lasagna, for example, it looks really lovely in front of me. I could give it a 10. My mouth starts to water at the thought of it. But if I just move the same image to my left, it now drops down to, it's almost like it goes a bit grey, black and whitey, loses its colour, and it's now down to about a 4 just by moving the location. And that's what we did with these ladies. We not only moved it to the left, but we moved it down below too. So we were looking down at the actual image and beginning to look at what does this product, what is it that the cheesecake or the wine or whatever else we've been working on, what's it doing to you? What's the true cost? And that seemed to have quite the impact subconsciously. Now, I often work with people who are intimidated by other people. They could be a narcissist, they could be a bully, it could be someone at work who's in authority. And what's interesting is that in their subconscious mind, they have created this person to be much bigger than they actually are, which makes them feel much smaller than they actually are. And this is just a self protective technique the mind is using to trick the person into some form of survival mode, which is great for when you're really in danger, but not so much for living everyday life. But these thoughts appearing much larger than they are, maybe above you, around you, can really trigger that physical response, which is subconscious. It just happens, and you find yourself shrinking, feeling anxious and stressed, and then going for your favorite response, which could be freeze, which just stopping still, not really being able to say much. It could be fight, where you might find yourself getting quite stressed around this person and beginning to have low tolerance levels and fighting back. You've got flight, which, of course, get out of there. You've got fawn, which can lead you into people pleasing behavior, all from how a thought appears to you. But think of the power that you now have. Just by becoming aware of where the thought appears, what happens when you begin to change location? Now, I've moved my lasagna around and it's now a 4. You could practice with something that you find quite attractive, something that you enjoy. Remember, you can put it back. It's not going to turn you off permanently from it unless it's something you would like to let go of. You can just simply move something around. You can move it from the left. And if I move the lasagna back over to the right, it suddenly feels like it's glowing a little bit. It feels quite appetizing. I haven't even got lasagna for dinner tonight. Damn it. So what I'll do is I'll move it back in front of me and maybe just a little bit further away to reduce its appeal on my mind. Because you know, when you get those thoughts of a food product on your mind, and then the dopamine kicks in and you find yourself wanting it like you've never wanted it before in your life, it can really play on your mind that way. That's what it was like for me in cheap chocolate, by the way. It would play on my mind until I got it. But I took my power back. Just going back to if someone's intimidating you, you can begin to shrink them, begin to move them away from you, just the thought of them. Because that's what creates your subconscious response when you're with that person. It's not like you're choosing to shrink, choosing to have your survival response. It just happens, right? Frustrating. And you wish you could behave differently. So practice the person that triggers you, begin to picture them and gently begin to move them away. Always make sure you're breathing nice and slow and low down to the belly during these exercises. It's really good to center yourself. Gently move the person away. Begin to, if you need to, look down on them. Yeah, so you're shrinking them towards the floor. And then just put the image behind you. If that's what you feel is appropriate, put it behind you, into the past where it belongs. You have so much power. You can do this with memories, by the way. Anything that's playing on your mind. You can imagine a large vortex, a whirlpool, opening up behind you. And you can place anything in there because you're training a subconscious mind to move on from it, that you're letting it go. And the more you practice that, the easier it becomes. And you'll notice yourself feeling different about where you're putting whatever it is because of the new location. If you want to increase the importance of something to you, move it closer to you. If you're struggling with someone and you notice that subconsciously they're on your left and that feels negative, maybe move them in front of you or to your right. Now, if you're left handed, it may be the opposite way around. A good way to find out how your landscape is appearing to you is to get a sense of when you picture your favorite food, it may appear in front. And does it feel better on the left or worse? same on the right? Does it feel better on the right or worse? And you might get a sense of where positive seems to be for you. Is it more positive on your right or left? Again, we're all different. But once you find out what your landscape is, you can begin to change the order of anything. That is a huge game changer. So I hope you enjoyed this little mini coaching session. I love exploring subconscious landscapes because I get to see clients make big changes from something they never would have expected would happen just by changing location. It really can get quite crazy. But more importantly, it can be very empowering. So I wonder what was going on for you. Practice this, have a little play around, and let me know in the reviews what it was like for you. Or get in contact one to one. It'd be good to hear from you. Anyway, thank you for being here with me. It's truly appreciated. Thank you for doing the work. And I look forward to connecting with you in the very next episode. Have a wonderful, peaceful, and present day.